Hello, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, Intro to Torq Vulnerability Management. There will be time for questions towards the end of today's session, so please enter your questions into the Q&A tab below. I'm joined here today by our host and speaker, Marco Garcia, Field CTO here at Torq. Thank you so much, Marco. Take it away.
Thank you, Christopher, and thank you for joining us here today. As Christopher said, my name is Marco Garcia. I am the Field CTO here at Torq. Today, we will be focusing on vulnerability management, part of this Intro to Torq series. But before we dive into the topic, let me just give a quick introduction on what is it that we do. We are Torq. We're a no-code platform focused on automation and orchestration, built for security and operation teams. What makes us different? Number one, extensibility. We allow you to bring any part of your security stack without ever being blocked, pay professional service engagements, or having to write your own code to accomplish the desired automation. We provide all the components needed for you to connect any part of your stack or any part of your security ecosystem and build the desired automation. Number two, simplicity. Being no code and using our workflow designer, we provide a very fast time to value. Our users are able to create production-grade workflows within an hour or two, and not months and months like other solutions. Number three, which is eliminate repetitive work, which we allow your team to focus on the right priorities, like delivering better security. Torq provides the ability for you to bring all the tools from within your ecosystem together, which allows you to build powerful automations, gaining a very fast time to value versus other solutions. What does that mean? It means that you can build, modify production-grade workflows, like I mentioned, within minutes or hours, without having all that lengthy time coming behind you, like months and months, to accomplish maybe one automation itself. Torq has simplified the way automation for security teams is accomplished. Our customers use Torq to automate many use cases, like security posture management, identity lifecycle management, creating chatbot experiences, and many more. But today, we will be focusing on vulnerability management. So let's get started. Vulnerability management. Vulnerability management is not a single task. It's a cycle, which is what the picture from Gartner represents over here on the screen. A cycle that begins with scoping and creating the program. This is the starting point. Then moving into assess where you will scan your assets. Then you will gather those results to prioritize it. You will add some threat intelligence that helps with the prioritization of it, right? Then you will act on the findings, and then moving into remediation and then reassessment once the findings have been reported as completed to validate that everything has completed according to plan, and then the finding has been remediated, which then provides you with all the metrics needed to evaluate and improve the process constantly, right? Now looking at this cycle, automation is key for a successful program. And the reality that we have seen is that in the process that goes between assess, prioritize, act, release, reassess, etc., is actually pretty manual. And most organizations that we have seen, pretty manual, starting with opening tickets, tasks for different teams to remediate. This component usually requires advanced logic to be implemented, so you don't just blindly open hundreds or thousands of tickets for every finding. And let me ask you this question. Who do you think does this logic at the moment? No? The reality is that this logic is a pretty manual process in most organizations, no? Which is being handled on weekly, monthly basis, or even in some cases bi-weekly, in order to gather those findings, look at a spreadsheet, correlate them all together, perhaps adding some vulnerability information into it, prioritize them, categorizing them, and opening up those tickets. That is a very manual process that happens at the moment. Can you imagine, like if you have hundreds of vulnerabilities that need to be handled or follow up that someone will have to do those components manually. The reality is that it happens in many organizations at the moment. But how about adding context to those findings? One thing is opening up the tickets, right? But you don't want to open up like thousands of tickets to see what the scope of the vulnerability might be and the associated risk. Looking into advanced threat intel services, like for example, like Recorded Future, which gives you like the latest happenings to see if the vulnerability is actually being exploited based on a risk value. No, are you able to follow up all those things that are happening and then change your priority and reassess your findings and the criticality in a manual basis? No, you will always be playing catch up, and this is the reality, like I mentioned, that's happening across many organizations. Right? This is a very manual or semi-manual automated process that take a lot of time and a lot of research to get it right. Right? This manual process, moving around the wheel, has a high effect on the time to remediation, right? Because it's taking so long to assess and prioritize, it leaves organizations vulnerable to attacks, which can lead into successful breaches, right? Mitigating a finding in reality shouldn't be a complex task, but because of those manual processes, it has become very complex in many vulnerability management programs now that exist out there, right? The good news is that automation exists and is here to assist with some of those contexts. While traditional technologies for automation focus on only incident responders, Torq brings additional value into the customers that are using our platform, like creating some of that complex logic on what do you do when a scan comes in, and how do you drive the scan in order to enrich data like CVE against like the MITRE attack report, for example, against like I said, vulnerability management components on Recorded Future, or even to a point in which if it's a critical vulnerability and you know how to resolve it. Like let's put an example. You have a vulnerable asset in AWS, and all of a sudden there's a finding that says that your asset is open up to the world. Would you like to remediate it? No, the simple fix is to close some security groups, perhaps, right? And maybe a question get asked to the person that opened up that access to say, did you mean to do this? Provide a justification, right? And if the person provides a justification, then there's an approval process of somebody saying, yes, I approve. And if nobody approves, the access is automatically removed because it's violating compliance and it's putting the company at risk. All of those components that automation can help with, right? Here's where Torq can help and assist in many of those situations. This is why we are here. So let me walk you through the areas in which Torq can assist for vulnerability management. Like you saw the wheel that I presented on the previous screen, right? We can assist on every part of that wheel, like starting with assess. Automate your vulnerability scans, cloud, endpoint, web, app, any of those components, and add the capabilities to rescan things whenever you need it, right? Whenever a finding comes in, do all of these components, rescan when needed, schedule your scans. Of course, there's capabilities within the products to do it. But what about if you need to do it across a wide variety of environments, on-prem, cloud, no code, no containers. So there's multiple products that you want to correlate all that data, maybe schedule them and gather all of those results as you're going, right? In order to allow you to provide that assessment. Prioritize. Allow you to automate that decision making of figuring out like exposure versus risk, and how critical is this vulnerability, that maybe there's a CVSS score of 10 on something, but then after you did your research, the vulnerability is not actively being exploited. So therefore, no, the risk level can be lower. So all of those decision making, imagine that you don't have to manually go in, investigate and do it, but you have a way to programmatically do this as the vulnerabilities show up. No, and this is where we can help in order to do those complex logistics that you will be looking and finding in that side, right? Third component, act, right? Automate the remediation of critical issues, like I mentioned. no, including a human in the loop component. We have seen it highly efficient to include a human in the loop by asking a simple question. Hey, did you mean to open up this access to this instance in AWS? No, it's violating compliance. And if there is no answer, you take a default action to remove that access and suggest the person to open up a ticket to justify the action that they had just performed. Therefore, removing some of the risk out of the risk from the organization, right? And then once things have been corrected, let's say that you automatically corrected the finding, maybe go in and reassess, go back and reassess, go back and rescan that asset, go back and perform some testing, maybe from the outside to check in if the access has been blocked on any of all those other components, right? Programmatically, that can be all done as part of a playbook, right? And last but not least, improve as part of all of the executions that are happening, as part of all of the components, opening up the tickets, grouping tickets, and making sense out of the entire logistics of what you're trying to do. No, perhaps you also want to fit into the SLA reporting, right? Maybe you have an SLA trigger, an SLA field on ServiceNow that keeps on accumulating for every time there hasn't been an action touch on a ticket, and you want to go in and run a report that gets delivered back to you on a weekly basis, so you know who is it that you have to follow up with. But maybe why follow up manually? Maybe automate also the follow-up. Maybe the follow-up can go against the owners, the business owners, and provide that component in order to streamline and automate as much as you can, including like I said, compliance, run any number of checks or anything that you can imagine with automation. No, just strictly focus on an incident that happened, open, close a ticket. No, we can help you pretty much automate many of the components that are part of the vulnerability framework itself. So now, instead of me continuing to talk about how will we do it and what do we do, let me jump right into actually showing you what do we do and how we do it. Let me go in and stop this, and I will start to share another one of my screens over here. So here what you're seeing is the Torq Designer. Here, the Torq Designer, we're going to start with a very simple use case. Maybe I'll pull up a template that I have that will provide me with a vulnerability scan. So let me go in and pull up this template that gives me this vulnerability scanning capabilities, right? Running a scan from Tenable, and then waiting for this scan to complete, export all my vulnerabilities, and then check the export status, and then go back and export all the findings, and then I'm going to do something with the findings as it's getting exported. So now you see it right in progress. It's going in, it's checking the status, and once it completes, it's going to tell me that it has completed. So see, now it completed. It went all the way down here, and the end result of this is, guess what? A lot of data, right? You have a lot of data that now you have to work with. So the first component that you probably want to do, maybe is you might want to filter some of these results in order to get the components that are interesting to you. Maybe everything is interesting to you. Maybe a couple of fields are interesting to you in order to make the decision-making process. So here with Torq, we provide you with the capability of making that filtering component very easy and very, very simple. By using in-product tools, which I can demonstrate in a moment, or by also allowing you to work with the tools that you have been used to working out there in the industry. Quick example, JQ. I find many customers that said, I know how to do many things in JQ. I know how to do very powerful components in JQ. I wish somebody will give me the ability to do this within JQ. So let me show you actually what Torq can provide you in this area. I am adding that finding into JQ, and I'm just going to create a query over here that is going to paste all the results, and I forgot a period. There we go. It's going to paste all the results over here, and it's going to allow me to filter all of the components that I need in order to make this data a lot more usable for what I require, like pulling up host name, CVE, description, solution, all of these pieces of findings. So now how can I use this this within Torq? Let me show you very easy. In Torq, you can do all of those complex data manipulations, logic, grouping in a very simple way. Let me go in and copy this example query that I have, which contains, no, and I zoomed in so you can see it, contains the query that we grabbed from here, the same query that I run. Now I can go in and hit play, and you can see the results that will come out of this. So as this is running, this is going to come back, and this is going to provide the same results that you saw in the JQ component, right? So very easily and very powerful, will give you the capabilities of filtering, grouping, making sense out of this data. So if you want to then after going in and extract certain fields from the records itself, like maybe now that you have this, maybe you want to find all the computers and you want to loop through all the computers in order to make some logic, go in and pull up the host name from here. See, you pull up all the host names that out of the results that came up. Maybe you want to run a unique on array component in which it gives you the ability to extract any of the duplicates. Like over here, you saw a lot of duplicates, right? So if I click in here, this extract all of those duplicate capabilities. So all of these pieces that you require in order to do those complex data gathering, data grouping, data manipulation on any of this are within the platform. And this is some of the power that can give you and the tools that we can give you in order to use vulnerability management, right? Maybe perhaps I want to grab some of those findings and I want to convert these findings into a format that Google Sheets will take. Maybe I want to put it in Google Sheets. Maybe I want to put it in BigQuery. Maybe I want to put it on my Snowflake. I want to put all these findings in a different place in order to fit in my vulnerability management database with Torq. So here with Torq, it's possible to go in and modify this data into any components, any syntax that you want, that then can be used in order to write these pieces into something like Google Sheets. Let me give you an example. Here we're gonna go in and send something into Google Sheets, and we're going to use the components that we built from above. First, we're gonna go in and we're going to create the headers, right, in Google Sheets. Okay, we will go in and create the headers into the Google Sheet. Okay, we added the headers into the sheet. Now we can go in and write the vulnerability findings into the same sheet as well as we're going through. Now all those vulnerability findings were written into the sheet that now you can use it. So you can continue adding this. And here's what you can see. This was the output of what we got from this step. No? So very quick and very easy. We converted a very complex data set into something usable that you can then export it and put it into your system of choice, right? So now that you have these vulnerability findings on this side, now you can do more interesting things with it. Like, for example, going in and opening up tickets against Jira, against ServiceNow, against any of those components, and update those findings as you're going through. So let me go in and copy an example of how that will work in here, and I will walk you through the same exact use case. We're gonna walk through the vulnerability findings. We're going to open up a ticket against each one of the vulnerabilities. And as we go in, we're gonna check the row that this has been written against, doing a query against Google Sheets. So we use Google Sheets almost like SQL. Can we do it on SQL, BigQuery, and any of those? Of course, we can do that in any of those components, and then loop through any of the rows in order to update that sheet. And it gives you the capability to pretty much go in and take a look at what's happening from that standpoint, from that side. So while we let this run, let me see if I can open up that Sheets document. that you will see. Okay, so now it's getting the vulnerability, and in this case, it's updating the vulnerabilities as this is going. See, vulnerability 9, and then this continues to run, and then this will update this ticket from a previous run that we had into the new ticket number that updated as part of the vulnerability run in here. So this is the dynamicness that can provide. Query these rows, go in and write this sheet dynamically, click the open ticket. When the ticket gets closed, change the status on it, maintain your vulnerability database. Of course, this is an example of Google Sheets. It can be on any type of database that you want to do it, providing you the flexibility and the power to accomplish this component, right? And this is running through this example, updating the vulnerability sheets. See, he already updated it to number 10. And then it's going to update number 8 as well, which was a previous run into 11, and then continue going from that point on. So this is a very quick example of data manipulation, data gathering, and usage from that side. Now, in the next couple of minutes, let me give you another example. This is a very easy example. You saw the numbers change, of course, in there. Let me give you another example of the power that we can provide for another component of vulnerability management. Well, the first one that you saw was against something like Tenable. We can also do vulnerability management against many other components. In this example, I'm going to run something against Wiz, right? I'll go in, query the vulnerabilities against Wiz, retrieve the findings, and then group them. And what am I doing here in Wiz? What I'm going in is I'm pulling up all the systems that have vulnerabilities, and I'm going to provide some grouping on it. Imagine if I open up a ticket for every single one of them. You know, the security team, the DevOps team will be like, what in the world did you just do, right? And nobody will be able to fix it because you have so many tickets. So in this case, now we are going to take the example of, for example, the GraphQL component that they have. We're going to use this GraphQL in Torq. So you can create any GraphQL component that you want, bring it into Torq, create the automation here, add your GraphQL query right here into Torq, and then run that component that is going to give you those findings, the same findings that you saw on the screen, right? And just like on the previous example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these findings, and perhaps I'm going to run them against a data conversion utility, like again, JQ. Maybe what I want to do is I want to group these findings by name, right? Maybe I want to group them by name. So let me go in and copy this and send this into this component, and you will see this in a moment. There we go. And see, now it's grouped by name, by the name and all of the vulnerabilities that were listed as part of that. So I just took a very complex task of vulnerabilities that showed up, and I was able to group them by name. Can I group them by CVE? Of course, I'll group them by CVE. I'll group them whatever method I can, because I can do any of those complex data manipulation points within Torq. While we are no code, we provide you the extensibility for you to do all of these components and pieces at your fingertips. So the power of the extensibility and the pieces that you can do with just like basic tools, like in this case, JQ. So maybe let me add some more components into this. Now that I have these findings, maybe the next part that I want to do with these findings is maybe I want to go in and open up some tickets. Maybe what I want to do is I want to drive through the logic of opening up tickets here and against like my Jira system and rank them based on risk score, right? Now, this is the component, one of the components of assessment that I mentioned from the vulnerability management, like lifecycle wheel, right? You want to use a tool like in this case, one of our partners, Recorded Future, that provides you risk score value, and also it provides you some of the details on the specific findings, right? It provides you some of the risk components. I will go in and run this. We have an amazing partnership with Recorded Future, in which we can run many of the steps that they will require from their side, and then run this against the component and against the findings that they have from their side. So you will see here in a moment. Let me go in and refresh my screen so you can see it correctly. Here you will see in recorded future all of the findings that happen, right? All of the findings, the evidence details, the things like the CBSS score, the criticality, and also if something is actively being exploited out there in the wild, which is a component of information that you want in order to make the decision, right? But in this example that I was showing and that we were looking at, right? What we wanted to do was probably just go in and run this and go back and opening up some of the tickets, in here in order to check what the risk score was against the different engines based on the different findings of the different CVEs, maybe correlated against the microtype framework, and do all of these components that allow you to do the decision making as of the priorities that each one of these tickets will take. Like if something is critical, if something is high, if something is medium, if something is low, you have the capability and the possibility of driving this across multiple components of logic and data set in order to make this grouping a lot more powerful for you, right? So this gives you all of that flexibility for you to write this automation, to deliver these components, to do any of these things that you normally will want to do, and you normally will want to use within your security practice. And last but not least, right? We can always use Torq as a toolbox that we can execute a command based on those findings, right? So we can also do like for example, here, let me show you this component, and I will do Slack get vulnerability status, and then over here I will run a workflow and Slack from Torq. Maybe I want to look at the vulnerability status of one of these IP addresses, just to show the component and the value. And this is going to go query the vulnerability database for me, and go in and gather that data, go pull that data, and then provide me with the criticality and the report of that vulnerability based on those findings. So this now gives you the tool set that you need and the capability that you need in order to not only feed that data, not only to group that data, but also to investigate the status of that data, and then even to make a change or launch a rescanning against those findings, launch a refresh, go in, update, go in and follow up with the owners, check on the SLAs, and do many of those things with any of the data that you have here at your fingertips. So this is as much as I had for today. Hopefully this was very useful for you guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Marco Garcia. Hopefully this was highly useful for you. Welcome again, and thank you for joining the Intro to Torq series. Again, we're Torq, no code automation, focus on automation and orchestration, and made for security and operation teams. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marco, and thank you for everyone for joining. If you'd like to see how Torq's no-code platform can transform your security team, head on over to torq.io and click Get Started for a free demo today. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.